Hi everyone, hope you're doing well today. So let's do the chanting straight away. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Tudayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tudayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tudayambi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tadayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatayambi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata gati gati para samgati bodhi soha. Tayata gati para samgati bodhi soha. Tayata gati para samgati bodhi soha. Okay, so now get yourself comfortable for some meditation. Initially, to release the tension in the body, which helps us as well to release the tension in the mind. So once you're comfortable, bring your mind inside your body. And we will release the tension from the bottom of the body to the top, from the tips of the toes up to the shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers, up to the top of your head. So let's take a few moments to do this now. Releasing the tension as you focus on the different parts of the body. And now scan your body once more to see if there's any leftover tension. that you're able to release. And now bring your focus of your mind initially to the tip of your nose, and follow the feeling of the breath as you breathe in all the way into your lungs and then back out your nose again. Breathing in, breathing out. Sitting here and breathing is all we have to do physically right now, and focusing on the breath is all we have to do mentally. And applying the antidotes when we lose focus. But try to do your best to focus or place your mind on your breath seamlessly, breathing in, breathing out as much as possible. But if any mental activities arise, such as thoughts and feelings and the like, don't cling to them. Don't grasp at them. Don't try to force them away either, or deny them. But simply let them go by replacing your mind back onto your breath. You may also add the extra techniques or technique of counting the breaths 1 to 10. 1 in breath, 1 out breath is 1, and so on. But if you get distracted while counting towards 10, go back to 1 at that time. Remember, the breath is the focus. Breathing in, breathing out. Don't try too hard, but don't try too little. Every aspect of the Buddhist path is a middle path. So let's practice like this in silence for a little bit. So now we can feel very pleased with ourselves and fill ourselves full of loving kindness, utilizing the visualization of white light, filling your whole being, or white nectar, or simply going with the feeling of universal loving kindness. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to your loved ones, family, and friends, filling them with the universal loving kindness too. May they be happy, free from suffering. May they be peaceful. Now also include strangers, those people you're indifferent towards. Fill them with a universal loving kindness and have the wish that they be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And now also include those you may regard as difficult or enemies. Fill them with the universal loving kindness too. And also wish that they're happy, free from suffering, and are peaceful. May all of these three different types of people from your own perspective, your friends, enemies, strangers, may they all have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. May they be peaceful and free from conflict. So now let's radiate further and further this loving kindness out distance-wise, starting around your immediate area, now to all living beings, all sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born. Wish that they all are happy, free from suffering, and peaceful. So filling them with the universal loving kindness too. All the beings that live on the land, in the waters, fly through the air, born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or through transformation. May they all be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. So now let's radiate this beautiful loving kindness out throughout your whole state or county. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. And other countries throughout the whole world. Initially those you're familiar with and have an affinity towards. Maybe you live there right now, maybe you've lived there before, or you have friends there or family. For whatever reason you have a good feeling about. Send a loving kindness to all of these countries. Also to those countries you're indifferent towards. And those that for whatever reason you have some sort of negative feelings towards. and also throughout all of the oceans, all of the waterways, to all of the living beings on this planet. Have your loving kindness extend to the core of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. May all of the living beings on this planet that we share have happiness, be free from suffering, and be peaceful. And may they themselves also radiate loving kindness. And now beyond this planet alone, throughout the whole solar system. And the whole solar system, or other solar systems, I should say, throughout the whole galaxy. And throughout all of the galaxies throughout the universe, until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. So once again, feel very pleased with yourself. And let's switch techniques to the giving and taking meditation, utilizing the inhaling and the exhaling. As you inhale, you take the suffering of others away from them. And at the same time, melt away your ego and self-centeredness. So as you inhale, you take the black smoke, comes from the heart centers of all living beings in front of you, all sentient beings, and enters your heart center and melts away your ego and self-centeredness, freeing them from the suffering. And as you exhale, then visualize white light leaving your heart center, representing all of your goodness, good karma, all of the good conditions, all of your wisdom, compassion, and everything you find pleasing, leaving with the white light and entering into the heart centers of all sentient beings in front of you, bringing them happiness, while also helping yourself to be free from attachment. So let's practice like this in silence for a little bit. Breathing in, breathing out. With true compassion. Once again, I remind you that during your sessions that you do by yourself or with others, you should do it for longer than we do in these online classes. Okay, just even if it's just a few minutes, maybe double the time. So once again, you can feel very pleased with yourself, and we will recite the dedication prayer now. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So now we will continue the commentary on the 8 verses of thought transformation. We've already covered verses 1, 2, 3, and 4 in depth, in detail. So now we're up to verse number 5. When others out of jealousy mistreat me with slander, abuse, and so on, I will practice accepting the defeat and offering the victory to them. Like I've said before, there's nothing to win anyway. And there's no one that actually wins, ultimately. There's nothing to lose. And actually, there's no one that loses, ultimately. This is where the teaching on emptiness or the teaching on non-self can be put into practice, even if we only understand it from a conceptual point of view, okay, or on conceptual level. So if any time you get abused by others or something, then try your best not to react. Recognize it. The old habit of frustration or anger may just arise a little bit, nip it in the bud. Don't give in to it, Don't do what they probably want you to do. Instead, you can have the wish that they be free from suffering, that they can be happy eventually. We don't want them to create a negative karma for themselves. So rather than getting offended and bringing it upon ourselves, we can instead replace that with true compassion. Okay? And therefore continue on the Dharma path without taking that step backwards. All right, so that's verse number 5. So the point that is being made in this verse is that if others provoke you, perhaps for no reason at all, or unjustly as well, then, and by the way, everybody experiences this type of thing at one stage or other, or some stage or other, okay, in their lives. Everybody, including the Buddha. Though the Buddha would never have experienced any problems with the mental afflictions, of course, in reaction to it. But there was many people who didn't really like the Buddha around that time, especially if they didn't know him properly, Maybe they were from a different religion. Maybe their disciples were now leaving them and going to the Buddha. So that they would have been abusing the Buddha verbally and so forth, okay? Even some people tried to maybe injure the Buddha. It's impossible to kill a Buddha, by the way, but can injure the Buddha. Like his cousin, Devadatta, okay? You can look into that if you like. I won't go on to that right now. So instead of reacting in a negative way, as a true practitioner of Bodhicitta, you should be able to be tolerant towards them, towards the aggressor. With Bodhicitta now, replacing, like I said before, replacing any self-centeredness with compassion. Just as we do in the giving-taking meditation as well. Giving up our self-centeredness, our ego, our attachments, and helping to alleviate the suffering of others, at the same time making them happy, and so on. So I'll repeat those points there. The point that is being made in this verse is that if others provoke you, perhaps for no reason at all, or unjustly, instead of reacting in a negative way, as a true practitioner of bodhicitta, you should be able to be tolerant towards them. I just share with you, these are my own words, but I took these ideas from the commentary by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, okay? I didn't copy the exact words because it was actually a lot more words, but I wanted to make it a little bit shorter because we've already spoken, as mentioned last week and the week before, we've already spoken in depth about these verses during the overviews and during the commentary in the first 4 verses as well. So true patience, remember, must be patient with the nature of reality. We don't understand everything yet. We have a certain level of ignorance, attachment and aversion, and all of the other mental afflictions that arise through this. So we don't understand what we call the wisdom of emptiness, the nature of reality. And we must be patient with that. Flipping that around a little bit, that means you're being patient with yourself, with your lack of understanding, and so on. Don't push the Dharma away because we don't understand it yet. Don't get angry with it. Excuse me, you tell me there's no self, but I'm experiencing suffering right now. How dare you tell me there's no self when I'm suffering? You know, don't get offended like that. I'm using a bit of humor there, but that kind of happens, you know. Sometimes you may go try to help some people, even from really good intention, and they don't like it because pointing out their faults to them, that is. Maybe you're not pointing faults out, you're just trying to help them, but their faults are arising in their mind at that time, so they get offended and they push away the truth at that time. Don't do that, and help others not to do that too. So patience also when we're being harmed. Of course, well, I'm not going to go into detail right now because we already had in-depth classes on the 6 paramitas and the paramita of patience, or Shanti paramita. We also should be patient when we're experiencing difficulties on the Dharma path. So let's say somebody is abusing you verbally because they're jealous or something like that. Then don't get upset about that. From the wisdom of emptiness point of view, realize there's 3 aspects there: the abuser, yourself getting abused, and the abusing, the action. All 3 of those aspects are dependent upon each other for there to be any experience whatsoever there, okay? But they're constantly changing. By themselves, they don't exist, okay? So think about that type of teaching. If you experience some people, you know, sort of throwing things at you verbally. And doesn't mean you have to put up with it, but don't react mentally with anger. Just in your mind, give up any thought of winning an argument and let them win. No problem. You don't have to tell them, oh, you win. You know, you don't have to do that. Remember, this is mind training, okay? Okay, so I think that'll do for the patience. Remain unaffected, unperturbed by such treatment. You're not the aggressor there. You're not the one giving the treatment, okay? But you are responsible for your reaction or the lack of being proactive instead. You're responsible for that, okay? So try your best not to have the negative sort of feelings, negative reactions back towards the person. And especially don't keep the argument going. You know, think about this. You have, every action brings a response, doesn't it? Every word brings a response, normally, ordinarily. You know, so basically every thought brings a response, brings another thought. So if you want to continue the arguing with a person who wants to argue, you come back, then they come back. Then you come back, and they come back. It's sort of like, you know, these enemies in the world blowing each other up, and then that one blows this one up, and then this one blows that one up. It just continues. Somebody's got to be mature. Somebody's got to be the adult, basically, and let it go. Like as mentioned before, there's nothing to win and there's nothing to lose anyway. So if someone out of jealousy mistreats you with slander, abuse, or so on, give the victory to them. Just accept the defeat yourself and let it go. Let it be as it is, as Paul McCartney sung, let it be, you know. So anyway, that's verse number 5. So we'd be able to do verse number 6 today as well. And then next week, move on to verse number 7. There's a fair few bits. I've got about 6 pages of notes for that. Remember also, verse 7 is kind of like a summary for the first 6 verses too. And also a commentary in itself of the giving-taking meditation as well. Okay, so verse number 6. I'll mention to you again, remind you, the teaching of emptiness, teaching of non-self, the 3 aspects to every action. Don't take things personally. Don't get upset, okay? The giving, if we practice generosity, you know, the act of giving is empty by itself, without there being a giver or a receiver. And it's likewise with morality and patience, effort, and so on, okay? So not only, verse number 6 now, not only should we be tolerant when being attacked, we should view others as our spiritual teachers. So if someone you have benefited in whom I place great trust hurts me very badly, I will practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. This is mind training now, okay? We can learn what not to do from them, but at the same time, they are helping us to develop these paramitas, to develop the bodhicitta, to make us more firm in the practice, make it more sort of like unbroken thread with the practice. They present us with the opportunity to increase our perfections, especially patience, just like the previous verse, for the practice of the previous verse. See them as objects of spiritual learning. So you can see them. Imagine they are actually spiritual gurus, that they're there to test you. That's a really good way to not get upset at this. You know, get upset about being abused, or get upset, in this case, you may have helped somebody, but they've actually turned it around and now are hurting you. You know, so you can train your mind to understand that as a teaching. Much better to perceive it that way than reacting to it, either from getting upset or fighting back against those people or that person. So see them as a being of spiritual learning to progress on your own path to enlightenment. So like I said, true renunciation is when you turn your back on worldly ways. Doesn't mean you don't live in the world, or don't experience everything and have enjoyment and whatnot, but you turn your mind away from all the worldly things and towards enlightenment in everything you do, with the bodhicitta intention. So if we do that, then this type of mind training will start to become natural for us to be able to put it into practice, to not react, to be proactive in our practice on the path to enlightenment. We should maintain this attitude of altruism, of bodhicitta, like I said, as an unbroken thread. You know, you've heard of the word tantra. You know, the tantra is practiced in other traditions as well, like Hinduism and so on. But there's also, in Buddhism, there's some tantra practice. In Buddhism, the Vajrayana practice tantra. You know, and this is where you utilize a lot of visualization and mantras and so on, okay? Tantra actually means like an unbroken thread. That's really what it means. But also the word sutra can mean this as well. So try our best to practice with like an unbroken thread. Continue, you know. We're not going to be perfect, so we have to gather ourselves sometimes and then get back up on the path and keep going forward, okay? Undaunted, even if it's really difficult, even if we're experiencing a lot of difficulties, or we're being abused, or we're being harmed in any way, okay? We get to learn more and more like this, what to do, what not to do, isn't it? What to pick up, what to put down, what to adopt, what to abandon, to utilize those words. They all mean the same thing, okay? What to pick up, what to put down. You pick up those things, those states of mind and so on that bring benefit and help you on your path to enlightenment. You put down those things that are harmful and even meaningless, okay? You put them down. One way to do that is to replace them with the wholesome. Replace the unwholesome with the wholesome. So this is once again reiterating in a way, verse number 3, the actual practice of purifying the mind. We should develop compassion and wisdom rather than giving in to our mental afflictions. I know it can seem unbearable sometimes if people, especially if it's a habit with certain people, when they attack you or when they disrespect you. It's easy to become disheartened or get angry even. But your practice should be to not give in to this, not give in to these negative emotions. See them as what they are. Like I've said many, many times before, they are very shy when you pay pure awareness towards them. They melt away. You get angry, you pay pure awareness without attachment, without aversion. At that moment, the anger melts away. And it's the same with the other mental afflictions as well. So that's why I like to say metaphorically that they are very shy. They don't exist, actually. So don't take anything personally or be offended. So I keep repeating that a little bit. So when others out of jealousy mistreat me with slander, abuse, and so on, I will practice accepting the defeat and offering the victory to them. When someone I have benefited and whom I've placed great trust hurts me very badly, I will practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. And then verse number 7, in short, I will offer directly and indirectly every benefit and happiness to all beings, my mothers, and in secret I will take upon myself all of their harmful actions and sufferings. Without these practices being defiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from the disturbing, unsubdued mind and karma. Okay, so we will go into verse number 7. Like I said, in a way, it's like a summary for the first 6 verses, as well as more, as well as with the Tonglen or giving, taking meditation as a technique to develop this thought transformation, but also based on that last verse, which is the ultimate bodhicitta. The first 7 relate to relative bodhicitta. Number 8 is the ultimate bodhicitta. This is the wisdom aspect, okay? But also marrying this wisdom with the compassion. That's why I mentioned compassion and wisdom before, okay? Just like the first 5 of the paramitas relate to the method or compassion, and then they are made perfect when unified and perfected with the perfection of wisdom, the 6th paramita. Okay? I don't know when we went under a minute, but it was maybe half a minute ago or something. I rejoice in your goodness as always. I hope you've enjoyed today's class and get a lot out of it. Make sure you review the video, whether on the YouTube channel or on Facebook later on, so that you can maybe take notes, mental notes or physical